rocks have a lot more to do with everything else than people probably realize. Hey, I'm in my car right now. I'm driving to a really cool place that I'm really excited to show you. We're gonna talk about rocks, but also we're gonna talk about plants and life, and not just the dead rocks that I usually tell you about. So we're going to somewhere in Western Massachusetts where the bedrock actually has a big effect on the biodiversity of the life, which is really, really, really cool to me. And as soon as I learned about it, I just wanted to show you. So come along with me and we will be right there. Just kidding. Nope. Okay, here we go. We are at Bartholomew's Cobble right now in Massachusetts, and I'm taking you here because it's actually really, really well known for its biodiversity, for the plants, like the ferns, mosses, birds, trains apparently. And I think this place is really cool. Another quick note on why I wanted to come here is it's a natural national landmark, or a national natural landmark, and it was declared that in 1971 because of the biodiversity. And I'm going to show you when we go into the woods more, but there's over 43 species of ferns that have been found here. There have been 800 species of vascular plants. It's also a very popular area for birding, as you can probably hear. As well as, what else? I got ferns, mosses, plants, birds. I don't think I'm missing anything. Just the rocks, which I'll show you in a bit. This looks like the picture that it told me. And bobolinks are really cool, so I want to get a picture. So if any of you are birders. Ooh, there he goes! It has like a really interesting call too. I was right. They are bobolinks. So I made sure to charge my camera, and as soon as I got to the rocks just now, it died. So, oh well, we're using our phone. I wish I could like capture a smell and send it through the camera because it smells so good here. So although the whole property is beautiful, this section of the forest is my favorite because, well, guess why? It's because of the rocks. But the rocks are also covered with moss and ferns, and there's hemlock trees everywhere and other trees that I can't yet identify, but I'm getting there. And even just the first few steps into the trail, you'll already see one of these boulders that's just covered with life. The actual rock almost isn't even visible because of all the mosses, lichens, and ferns growing on it. I even saw some boulders that had other plants and even trees steadily growing on top of them. You may think of these things as completely separate from each other, the green stuff considered the life, and the boulder just a non-living substrate that they just so happen to have made their home on. But what if I told you that the extensive biodiversity here at Bartholomew's Cobble and many other places around the world actually has a lot to do with the bedrock? These guys right here are really the star of the show. So what is so special about bedrock when it comes to determining what things grow where? This mainly has to do with the formation of soil. Soil forms from the breakdown of bedrock. The type of bedrock has a major influence on what the soil is like. What types of minerals are in it? Is it well draining? Is it full of clay? Is it super acidic? Etc. Obviously, we can't take credit away from climate, elevation, precipitation, temperatures, seasons, sun and shade amounts. But when we ignore bedrock as a crucial part of this recipe and only look at environmental factors, we are missing out on a huge part of the equation and how we can learn to understand all parts of an ecosystem. The two main types of bedrock here are quartzite and marble. They started out as sandstone and limestone about 500 million years ago on a continental shelf, when this land was actually a bit south of the equator in a tropical climate.
I'm just looking up at this rock, and it blows my mind that it used to be a beach, essentially. It used to be the continental shelf in a tropical area like the Bahamas today, for example. And it used to be a bunch of sand and shells and mud. And then millions of years later, it ended up here, somewhere that's not tropical at all. That's very much not on the ocean.
440 million years ago or so, there was a mountain building event called the tectonic orogeny that squished those together and put so much heat and pressure on them that they changed into different rocks.
It's kind of hard to tell when you're looking at them from a distance, and because they're all covered in moss, which is awesome, but makes it harder to identify them. These look like they're quartzite. Actually, no, these look like marble or dolomite. Look at this. Look at the moss.
Marble and quartzite are two very different rocks chemically. Quartzite being made out of, you guessed it, quartz, and marble mostly made out of a mineral called calcite.
Here's one way you can tell that this is marble and not quartzite. See how easily it starts to kind of crumble apart? Quartzite is a lot more resistant. This is at the bottom of this kind of little mountain, so up there, water probably runs down here through the cracks and dissolves the minerals in the marble. See up there's a little crevice where the rock kind of like is broken. That's probably from ice over years and years of ice getting into cracks and then expanding and then melting, slowly breaking apart. And now, because of it, there's probably certain plants that like to grow in this little area, this little corridor right here. Oh, here it is. I think this is tremolite. It's a type of asbestos mineral that can sometimes be found in marble. And it tells us about the pressure and temperature conditions that this whole rock went through during metamorphism, during the tectonic orogeny. And it also looks pretty. Look at that fan shape. That's just so cool. Also, look at this little hole that the moss has decided to make its home in. Maybe even a bird nest. It kind of looks like a bird's nest. But look at all the little tiny holes that things probably live inside of.
Here, the marble forms more alkaline soils and quartzite makes more acidic soils. Certain plants enjoy different soils more than others, and normally you won't find such opposite types of soil right next to each other in such a small area. This carries over to the plants, meaning we can see certain plants growing near each other that don't usually do so. For example, you can spot the maidenhair fern, which prefers more alkaline soil, the purple-stemmed cliffbreak fern, or maidenhair spleenwort that both prefer growing on calcareous bedrock, or the Appalachian polypody, which likes more acidic soil and commonly grows on tops of boulders.
I think polypod might actually... Oh my god. Look at those little fiddleheads. Look at the tiny little fiddleheads.
The wild columbine flower, along other wildflowers like trillium flowers, can also be found here, and I found an article that calls the wild columbine the mountain goat of wildflowers because it loves growing on rock ledges and enjoys slightly limey soil.
Okay, look at those flowers over here. Look at these white ones. I don't want to go off the trail because that's not good. Oh, here's one. Oh my gosh, what is this? Oh my gosh, I was hoping I would see some of these. That's a trillium, right? And then there's these white ones. Are these also trilliums? Are they a different type? Someone let me know. So I just looked at my Picture This app for this white flower down here. And I was right, it is a trillium. I'm proud of myself for getting that right. See, I don't only know rocks. Even just looking on the rock face itself, there's plants. There's dandelion. Apparently they can grow anywhere. Don't really know what that is. Some type of fern, a bunch of mosses and lichen. And here we have another great example of a tree growing directly on a rock and probably breaking it apart over time. And more ferns, my favorite. Ooh, steep. These are the foundation of this whole area and the reason why all these beautiful plants that I've seen today and more are growing here. The reason why the soil is so good for them to want to grow here, and therefore the birds and the other wildlife that comes here. I love this rock. I love you, rock.
There are several things that have inspired me wanting to make a video like this, one of them being that I've just become increasingly interested lately in learning about the living friends of my rock friends here on Earth. But when I think about what really sparked this interest in the connection between rocks and plants, it was when I was in Wyoming for my geology field camp course. And the reason I was there was to learn how to go out into the field and map out the geology of a given area. To do so, we mostly looked at the bedrock, of course, but in those cases where the bedrock wasn't actually visible at the surface, we had to use other things. We looked at the color and the components of the soil, but we also looked at the plants. We did projects in more desert-like areas as well as more lush, green, forested areas. But there was one thing that seemed to stay the same, and it was this reliance on looking at the plants as evidence of what bedrock there was. Sometimes it would be as obvious as me walking and noticing certain plants starting to pop up where I hadn't noticed them a few hundred feet earlier. And when I dug my hammer into the soil to dig out some rock fragments, my suspicions were usually confirmed about which rock formation we were in. And I had never thought about this connection before, but it seems so obvious when you really think about it, and why wouldn't there be a connection is the real question. Overall, this is an absolutely gorgeous place to go, whether you like birds or plants or rocks, or you just want a cool place to go on a hike. But as beautiful and special as this place is in its own way, it's not the only place on the planet that you can see this awesome connection between rocks and life. Pretty much everywhere you go, if you look hard enough, you can find this connection, and I just wanted to give you a little push to go and find that wherever you are.